good morning, and welcome to paradise. It is with great pride that I welcome you to this, the 4th annual Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, Active 2025, hosted here in the vibrant and resilient heart of the Caribbean, St. George's, Grenada. On behalf of the people and government of Grenada, I extend to you our warmest greetings and sincere appreciation to the African Export-Import Bank for its steadfast partnership and vision. Together, we are not merely convening a forum, we are shaping a future. This year's theme, Resilience and Transformation, Enhancing Africa-Caribbean Economic Cooperation in an Era of Global Uncertainty, is both a call to action and a powerful reimagining of our shared history. It invites us to transform the painful legacy of the transatlantic slave trade into a new corridor of opportunity, one that is rooted in dignity, equity, and mutual advancement. For centuries, Africa and the Caribbean endured the legacies of colonialism, exploitation, and systemic underdevelopment. At this point in our history, we stand as architects of a shared economic future, never as victims of history. This forum, therefore, is a bold step towards building a transatlantic economic pathway. In an era marked by profound global challenges, ranging from economic volatility and climate shocks to geopolitical tensions and supply chain disruptions, it is more urgent than ever for the Africa-Caribbean partnership to move from intention to implementation. Resilience and transformation are not simply words. They speak about our shared journey. For centuries, Africa and the Caribbean have endured, but our regions stand steadfast as architects of a new economic future. This is a new beginning for us to establish a union of two regions, once torn apart by the transatlantic slave trade, now reunited in purpose, in partnership, and in promise. In the wisdom of the Yoruba proverb, however far a stream flows, it never forgets its origin. The original Middle Passage was a tragic chapter in our collective history. It tore families apart, severed cultural ties, and left deep scars that still echo today. But here we are. At this moment, we are called to reclaim our narrative. We envision a new Middle Passage, not one of bondage, but one of boldness. A passage where people, goods, services, capital, and ideas flow freely between Africa and the Caribbean. A passage where our ports are bustling with trade, our youth are empowered through innovation, and our economies are interlinked through shared enterprise. Let me say, this is not just symbolic, it is strategic. It is about building joint ventures between African and Caribbean businesses, co-developing industries, and investing in each other's growth. It is about turning the tide of history into a current of prosperity. This forum, therefore, is a bold step towards building a transatlantic economic pathway, one that connects African innovation with Caribbean creativity, African capital with Caribbean opportunity, and African resilience with Caribbean determination. It is through the fusion of our talents, ideas, and resources that we will shape a vibrant and prosperous future. Grenada is proud to host this transformative event. We envisage a future where Grenadian nutmeg meets Nigerian cocoa, where Barbadian fintech collaborates with Kenyan innovation, and where African and Caribbean entrepreneurs co-create solutions for the global markets. A future where Grenadian spices are exported directly to African markets. African pharmaceuticals and textiles are readily available in Caribbean stores. Joint ventures in renewable energy, tourism, and digital technology flourish across our regions, and where our youth from Accra to St. George's collaborate as global entrepreneurs, artists, and change makers. But to realize this vision, we must be deliberate in strengthening the ties that bind our people. It is imperative that we consolidate partnerships, foster an enabling environment that promotes enhanced logistics, and create access to capital to build a resilient intercontinental economic channel. We must dismantle the barriers that still divide us, from limited air and sea connectivity to outdated trade protocols, to the absence of direct financial instruments, That is why Grenada fully supports the establishment of an Afri-Caribbean free trade agreement, and we commend AfriCaribbean Bank for its leadership in facilitating trade finance, investment guarantees, and capacity building. We are living in a time of profound global transformation. Economic uncertainty, geopolitical realignments, climate crises, and technological disruption are reshaping the world as we know it. In this context, solidarity between Africa and the Caribbean is not just desirable, it is indispensable. Together, we represent over 1.5 billion people. We are rich in natural resources, cultural heritage, and human capital. But to harness this potential, we must act with unity and purpose. We must speak with one voice in global fora, advocate for fair trade and financing systems, and build institutions that reflect our values and aspirations. Through this forum, we must declare that we will no longer be passive participants in the global economy. We'll be architects of our own development, forging a new economic order rooted in South-South cooperation, resilience, and shared prosperity. Trade and investment are the lifeblood of economic growth, but they must be intentional, inclusive, and strategic. It should not be just about dialogue. It should be a commitment by Africa and the Caribbean. We must move beyond episodic engagements to strive for institutionalized partnerships. This means establishing permanent trade missions, creating joint chambers of commerce, and supporting regional value chains that connect African and Caribbean producers, suppliers, and consumers. We must also invest in information infrastructure with platforms that allow businesses to access real-time market data, regulatory guidance, and investment opportunities. Remember the cliche, knowledge is power. And so, by sharing it, we unlock the full potential of our two regions. Therefore, let us not forget our youth and women entrepreneurs. They are indeed the change, the present, and the future. Let us ensure that the benefits of trade and investment reach every corner of our societies, leaving no one behind. My friends, the wind of change is blowing across the Atlantic. They carry with them the voices of our ancestors, the dreams of our youths, and the hopes of generations yet unborn. Grenada is proud to be a part of this transformative journey. As a small island developing state, we understand the power of collaboration. We know that our strength lies not in our size or lack thereof, but in our ability to connect, innovate, and lead with purpose. To our African brothers and sisters, welcome home. This is your home too. Let us use this moment to deepen our ties, not just in trade and investment, but in sectors like education, technology, tourism, agriculture, and culture. Let us build bridges that will stand the test of time. To our Caribbean partners, let us seize the opportunity to reshape our role in the global economy. Let us invest in each other, support each other, and rise together. In closing, I wish to thank all the organizers, sponsors, and participants who have made Active 2025 possible. Your presence here is a testament to our shared commitment to a brighter, more inclusive future. Let us make this forum one of a meeting of minds and a launchpad for action. Let Active 2025 be remembered as a spirit of unity between our regions, united in purpose. Yes, we may sign deals and form partnerships, but let us rise together as global partners, creating new opportunities, embracing our dignity, creating prosperity, and fostering justice. May this forum be fruitful, inspiring, and transformative. Welcome to Grenada. Welcome to Active 2025. Let the work begin. Long live Africa-Caribbean unity.
It is indeed a pleasure to be here in Grenada, my fourth visit to the island of Grenada. My very first meeting with the Caribbean region was 24 years ago as a junior official. There was a meeting of the ACP in Brussels, the Africa-Caribbean Pacific. I really could not understand why we had to connect in Brussels as the two regions. I couldn't understand why we required an interlocutor in Brussels. A few years ago, the inaugural Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum was convened in Barbados. And on my way to Barbados, I transited in London. The immigration officer asks me, "Where are you going?" I say, "I'm going to Barbados." She says, "Then what are you doing here?" I said, "That's a very relevant question. What am I doing here?" And so these two anecdotes, in my opinion, underscore the importance of this event. They underscore the importance of why we have to take very concrete steps to advance beyond historical ties and reflections. The forum takes place against a backdrop of unprecedented global challenges, the onslaught on the multilateral trading system, the onslaught on humanity itself as we see a genocide unfolding in front of our eyes in Gaza, the onslaught on humanity itself, the onslaught on the multilateral trading system that for a very long time offered us certainty, predictability of open markets, as imperfect as it is. And so we are in a seminal moment, my comrades and friends, and that is to use and leverage on this challenge, on this period of a multiplicity of crises, to advance a very unique opportunity. That opportunity presents itself in integration between Africa and the Caribbean. And so the theme today, resilience and transformation, enhancing Africa-Caribbean economic cooperation in an era of global uncertainty, not only is it apt, but it is also a strategic imperative for us, our two regions, to navigate these global challenges. This forum is a strategic platform to chart a new course for ourselves, our regions, and to ensure that we deliver on the historical and emotional ties. The choices we make and the partnerships we form indeed can help to unlock the potential that all of us recognize exists between our regions to build a future based on mutual prosperity. We have a unique opportunity to invest jointly in industrial development, invest jointly in regional value chains that will support trade between our two regions, to invest jointly in supply chain connectivity, air connectivity, and movement of persons. In this regard, I want to congratulate AfriCaribbean Bank for the $3 billion credit line that the bank has extended to the Caribbean region, which positions our two regions to achieve our ambitions and to advance on our relationship. We are now well poised as a result of this intervention, well poised to advance relationships beyond expressions of emotional and historical and cultural ties that formed over centuries, to commercially meaningful economic and trade ties between Africa and the Caribbean that have historically remained very, very low. And so all of us, my comrades and friends, have a responsibility and a duty to ensure that this ambition of integration, trade, and investment, that it is put forward. I dare say I want to add a third dimension to the integration, and that is emotional integration between our regions. I have done my fair share. My wife is from St. Lucia, and so I have this third dimension of integration has been underscored in my own family. The disconnect that exists is a legacy of colonial economic model, which conditioned our economies to export raw materials to the north and import manufactured goods, tying our economic fortunes to the vagaries of the global commodity markets. As a result, trade has concentrated in a few narrow set of lines, tariff lines, unprocessed goods, undermining value addition and industrial development in our two regions. This can no longer sustain. Yes, several obstacles continue to hold us back, including limited air and maritime connectivity, very high bilateral tariffs on processed goods, divergent custom procedures and regulatory systems that inhibit a closer market integration. More importantly, we are now actively working to overcome these obstacles and to build a robust transatlantic economic corridor that links our regions more meaningfully. The value proposition we present is a $3.4 trillion United States dollar market with a combined population of 1.4 billion people as an anchor for our two regions on trade and investment. And in this regard, I hope that when our leaders, that is to say, Caribbean and African Union leaders, convene in Addis Ababa next month, that this matter of trade and investment will be at the fore of their agenda. The AfCFTA provides a continental market of scale, underpinned by rules, investment, and industrial development. This anchor is a very important launchpad for future trade and investment relations. Looking ahead, the potential for deeper cooperation is considerable. Key sectors for growth include agro-processing, healthcare, tourism, energy, and other sectors. At its very core, Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2025 is a strategic extension of the AfCFTA and what we seek to achieve under the leadership of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union. Working together, we can move beyond outdated colonial economic models and build a more equitable and resilient global Africa and an economic bloc that will support that vision. In this uncertain world, deeper Africa-Caribbean economic cooperation is no longer an option. It is a requirement for us to be able to navigate the challenges that I set out at the onset. In this last edition, under Professor Orama's leadership, we want to surpass the $4 billion of investment that were concluded at the last event. Our partnership must be anchored in the commitment to eliminate barriers to inter-regional investment, eliminate barriers to inter-regional trade, movement of persons, in order for us to see the fruition of a truly commercially meaningful partnership. I want to end where I started, and that is the observation that our two regions must no longer not continue to rely on others to have and to forge a mutually beneficial trade and investment relationship. We must no longer rely on others to provide a platform for us Africans to enter into a dialogue about mutually advancing our benefits. This edition of the Africa Trade and Investment Forum must be a shining example of how we, as Africans, can collaborate to forge a new partnership, to navigate along a new pathway in this context of a challenging global environment. I very much look forward to our deliberations over the next 2 days, and I want to once again thank you, Comrade Prime Minister, for hosting us here in Grenada. I thank you for your attention.
This forum comes at a defining moment in history, a moment shaped by shifting geopolitical currents, challenges to multilateralism, global economic realignment, and unprecedented opportunities for collaboration. It is precisely in this moment that our collective resolve must strengthen, embracing unity, solidarity, and shared vision. We gather here today not only as representatives of nations and regions, but as one united family. I repeat, one united family. And let me recall here that since 2008, the African Union has declared the diaspora and CARICOM and the Caribbeans are part of the diaspora as its 6th region. We have 5 regions in the African Union. We have the northern, the western, the central, the eastern, and the southern. And the diaspora is the 6th region. And for those who know the governance structure, the way decisions are made at the African Union, they would know that each region, sub-region has a voice and a deliberative voice that has implications in how we are making decisions. So this is, I think, something that we need to reflect upon. So I was saying that we are gathering today as one united family, linked by common histories, aspirations, and destinies, as well as the boundless opportunities for prosperity and cooperation. Africa and the Caribbean community, together with our diaspora community, as I was saying, as envisioned by our Agenda 2063, indeed share deep historical and cultural bonds that are ripe for transformation into concrete economic partnerships. While our shared past has been marked by trials and tribulations, today we come together with optimism, mutual respect, and determination to transform these shared experiences into sustainable economic growth, inclusive development, I would even say co-development, and collective prosperity. Active 2025 serves as a powerful catalyst to deepen these ties by facilitating increased and consistent trade and investment flows between our two vibrant regions. By nurturing commercial partnerships, enhancing information exchange, and creating meaningful opportunities for mutual learning, we lay the foundation for sustained and resilient growth. Africa and the Caribbean community hold enormous untapped potential, and our joint efforts here today will unlock these opportunities for prosperity of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect upon the objectives of this fourth edition of Active, allow me to emphasize the significance of key themes. Firstly, the establishment of an African-Caribbean free trade area should be our ultimate objective. It is not merely aspirational. It is a strategic inherent imperative, especially now. It has the potential to significantly boost trade and investment flows, reduce trade barriers, and enhance competitiveness on the global stage. Our collective action in this direction will redefine how Africa and the Caribbean community engage economically to boost interregional growth and prosperity. Secondly, reinforcing the Africa-Caribbean Business Council is essential to ensuring effective collaboration between the private sectors in both regions. The Council must serve as an active platform for matchmaking, investment facilitation, and strategic networking, empowering businesses to form lasting partnerships and drive sustainable economic development. And these two first points are translated in aspirations 2 and 6 of Agenda 2063. Thirdly, we must harness the power of the creative economy, an area uniquely rich in potential. Our cultural and creative industries are not only sources of pride and identity, but powerful engines of economic growth. By promoting cultural exchanges, co-productions, and joint ventures in creative sectors, we not only foster economic resilience, but we build stronger mutual understanding and lasting bonds between our peoples. There is a need for the true reflection and correction of the narrative about our historical past and achievements, which continue to be distorted by our history being told by others. This needs to be corrected. This aspect is captured in Agenda 2063 once again under Aspiration 5, which also speaks to Pan-Africanism. Fourthly, strengthening connectivity through robust air and maritime links is pivotal, as highlighted by Mr. Wamkele. Efficient and affordable connectivity will directly stimulate trade, tourism investment, and cultural exchanges. It is imperative that our policy frameworks support the operationalization of our regular flights and shipping routes to bring our two regions closer together than ever before, and not being compelled to go to other regions that do not see the pertinence of us being there, like Europe. Distinguished delegates, our gathering here today signifies our collective commitment to chart a bold path forward. However, to achieve our ambitious goals, political engagement at the highest level is essential. Therefore, it is my great honor to inform you that the African Union member states, during the Mid-Year Coordination Summit held earlier this month, less than 3 weeks ago, agreed to convene the second Africa-CARICOM Summit, scheduled to take place in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia, on the 7th of September 2025. This summit represents an unparalleled opportunity to deepen the political and diplomatic ties between Africa, the Caribbean, and our global diaspora. The summit represents a platform for African Union member states and the Caribbean states to engage and consider the discussions and recommendations emerging from this edition of ACTIV. It will allow us to reflect on ways to strengthen our collaborative frameworks, expand our partnerships agendas. It will serve as a vital political milestone, demonstrating our collective resolve to foster unity, collaboration, and solidarity in the face of global challenges. It is really timely. Ladies and gentlemen, today let us seize this historic moment to solidify and strengthen our partnerships, as I said. Let us ensure that our economic exchanges and political commitments forge paths of sustainable development, prosperity, and shared successes that benefit our people now and for the generations to come. I thank you for your kind attention.
It is my distinct pleasure to address you at this opening ceremony of the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. This fourth edition is a further demonstration of the collective commitment towards forging deeper trade, investment, and economic cooperation as envisioned by our leaders at the first CARICOM Africa Summit in 2021. We meet amidst heightened global geopolitical and economic tensions and supply chain disruptions, and the questioning by some of the value of the multilateral system. The theme of this forum, Resilience and Transformation, Enhancing Africa-Caribbean Economic Cooperation in an Era of Global Uncertainty, therefore guides us to recognize the effect of these challenges on our work to deepen the relationship between our regions. Last month, I had the honor to participate in the 32nd annual meetings of the AfriCaribbean in Abuja, Nigeria. The theme of that meeting was Progressive Unity in a Fractured World, Building a Global African Coalition for Development. At that meeting, the CARICOM Development Fund and AfriCaribbean signed a mandate letter to commence work to design and launch a green, resilient, and sustainable facility. I emphasize the need for this type of global partnership to develop mechanisms that foster inclusive growth, sustainable development, and economic and climate resilience. Here today, I re-emphasize this approach of building partnerships. ACTIV 2025 is also taking place as we prepare for the second CARICOM Africa Summit, scheduled for September 7th, as you heard, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The summit will be an opportunity to deepen our partnership through high-level political engagement on advancing interregional trade and investment, strengthening South-South cooperation, and operationalizing the Memorandum of Understanding signed last year between the CARICOM Secretariat and the AU Commission on upscaling engagement and linkages with people of African descent. We need to bring focused intent on making our partnerships inclusive and for our people to connect or reconnect for partnerships to thrive. CARICOM remains committed to work side by side with the African Union to ensure that the partners are broad-based and include specifically young people and women. Our collaboration extends to advocating for reparatory justice for the transatlantic slave trade and for chattel slavery. During the second International Decade for People of African Descent, our joint efforts are vital to ensuring global recognition and action on this historical imperative. In this context, the designation of the African diaspora, of which the Caribbean is a part as the sixth region of the African Union, provides an appropriate context to act in concert towards our collective advancement. This forum has been nurturing investments and bilateral cooperation in many priority areas for both regions, such as the development of transportation links critical for trade, tourism, and cultural exchanges. Another priority area is technology transfer, a key example being the development of a Caribbean payment and settlement system based on the successful Pan-African payment and settlement system. This mechanism will make it easier for large and small enterprises in both markets to conduct business efficiently. There are many other opportunities still to be addressed, some of which are being explored. This forum is becoming a foundation on which we can and will strengthen trade and investment cooperation and engagements, of course, in priority areas for both the Caribbean region and the African continent, moving from policy discussion to real action. We know we have common legacy challenges that persist in the current global distribution systems and logistics. Our external trade far exceeds our intra-regional trade. Our similar efforts at regional integration, the development of the CARICOM single market and economy, and the African continental free trade area seek to address this. We must also decisively open the door to greater trade between our regions. CARICOM trade with the continent must grow beyond the current levels of less than 3%, let me repeat that number, 3% of our overall trade, particularly with the uncertainty that currently looms over trade with traditional partners. CARICOM is committed to deepening its collaboration with Afri-Caribbean in key areas of common interest. To ensure consistent and collaborative outcomes, steps are being taken to conclude a memorandum of understanding between CARICOM and Afri-Caribbean so that together we can drive the partnership in particular areas, such as trade, logistics, and connectivity, to increase economic, financial, and trade linkages while bringing our two regions together in mutually reinforcing ways. Trade and development financing has a critical role to play in the pursuit of trade and investment opportunities and the realization of our common development goals. CARICOM therefore welcomes and values the demonstrated commitment of Afri-Caribbean to partner in this critical endeavor. I was delighted to participate in the groundbreaking ceremony for the Afri-Caribbean African Trade Center in Bridgetown, Barbados in March this year, a demonstration of the bank's long-term commitment to the region. I must take a moment to express the community's thanks to outgoing President and Chairman of Afri-Caribbean, our good friend, Professor Benedict Orama. Professor Orama has been a driving force behind our partnership, and we are particularly grateful for the support of the Afri-Caribbean towards a possible Caribbean Exim Bank. We welcome his successor, Dr. George Elombi, and look forward to working with him to carry forward the momentum we have developed together. The 2024 edition of ACTIF, held under the auspices of the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Honorable Philip Davis, was a resounding success, and I am confident that this edition, hosted by Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, will build on those achievements and catalyze strategic partnerships between the business communities in Africa and the CARICOM region. We have a lot of work to do together. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Many from the continent have crossed the Atlantic to assemble here in St. George's, not only to deepen the roots of the seed we planted 3 years ago in Barbados, but also to put more flesh on the skeleton of the consensus we began to form in Abuja. Honorable Prime Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our gathering here is not ephemeral, but rather rooted in centuries of shared history and ancestry. Here in Grenada, we find traces of the tribes of Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Ghana. Interestingly, the Akan folklore, which tells the story of Anansi, the spider, is also told here in Grenada. These realities remind us constantly that despite the distance and many years of separation, the cultural ties and shared economic interests run deep and inerasable. Grenada provides the calm and serene environment required to concentrate our minds on the important issues that confront us today as a people. It is on that note that I welcome you all to the 4th Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. We are deeply grateful to our dear brother and chief host, the Honorable Prime Minister, Deko Michel, for his bold leadership in agreeing to host this event. We are thankful to him, his government, and the people of Grenada, and also the Governor General, for the warm hospitality we have received since arriving here in St. George's. I'm sure I speak for all of us from the motherland when I say that we feel totally at home here in St. George's. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this year's forum is significant to me personally, as it marks the last time I will be addressing you on this platform as President of Afri-Caribbean. It therefore affords me the opportunity to review the progress we've made since we collectively decided to turn the iniquities of the Middle Passage into a shared engine of prosperity built by us and for us. In October 2021, when I visited our dear sister, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Motley in Barbados, to discuss the necessity of moving away from political declarations, sloganeering, and motivating songs into concrete action towards realizing the long-held aspiration of strengthening Africa-Caribbean trade and investment ties. I left Barbados totally convinced that the key to unlocking that door, jammed for decades, had finally been found. And as I subsequently traveled and engaged across CARICOM states, from Grenada to Guyana, St. Lucia to St. Kitts and Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda to the Bahamas, Belize to St. Vincent and Grenadines, and Jamaica to Suriname, I found replicas of the same key, all tuned to the same goal. That is why we've made so much progress within such a very short period. Your Excellencies, Honorable Prime Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in just over 3 years, our partnership has yielded tangible historical results. With Jamaica having signed the partnership agreement a few weeks ago, 13 of the 14 independent CARICOM member states are participating in the partnership agreement amongst themselves and between them and Afri-Caribbean. 11 of these states have ratified the agreement, providing the bank a solid legal foundation to operate, support, and invest in their economies. This is not merely a bureaucratic milestone. It is a sovereign declaration that the CARICOM states see in Africa not just their past, but also their future. Besides, we've established a fully functional regional office in Barbados, staffed by committed professionals drawn from Africa and this region, and implementing a growing pipeline of deals. But we did not stop there. We are building the Afreximbank Africa Trade Center in Bridgetown, an almost $200 million architectural symbol of the bank's deep and unshakable commitment to the Caribbean. With twin towers, this center would host innovation labs, digital trade platforms, SME incubation center, a world-class hotel, as well as conferencing and training facilities, all designed to make the center a hub for Africa-Caribbean trade and investments, bridging the information and financing gap that currently stand in the way we do business. So in less than 3 years from now, Afreximbank flag will be hoisted high above the skies of Barbados and the Caribbean. Reminding us of our beloved Pan-African brave heroes, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Bob Marley, and the clarion call in our anthem that we must fight for the now and posterity. These notable steps are yielding significant results that touch the lives of our people in various ways. To date, our approved financing limit to the Caribbean has increased to $3 billion following the recent accession of Jamaica to the partnership agreement. This in the pipeline presently amount to over $2.5 billion across various strategic sectors. And we have approved already slightly over $700 million in just 2 years. Here in Grenada, we are co-financing a world-class tertiary hospital estimated at the cost of about $250 million. Which we hope will convert the country into a regional hub for medical tourism. Also in Grenada, we are also financing investments by Orascom Group in the luxury tourism, directly boosting Africa-Caribbean investments while supporting improvements in tourism infrastructure in the country. In St. Lucia, we are helping to rebuild schools destroyed by climate events, thereby easing learning conditions for young school children. In the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, we are enabling SME development, road infrastructure, and a permanent exhibition center through multiple transactions amounting to about $500 million in aggregate. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we've unlocked trade finance support through local banks. In Suriname, Afreximbank is the coordinator and the mandated lead arranger of the $1.7 billion facility for the state oil company Start Soli, which will be used to acquire 20% interest in the Grand Mogul offshore oil field being operated by Total SA. Afreximbank is contributing an amount of $500 million in the deal and expects to be an oil lifter through its trading subsidiary called Admin, which will enable the sale of the crude to refineries in Nigeria and Angola, also financed by Afreximbank. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we have to be deliberate about all these things. These are not the times you use your resources and say you are doing tender. If you want to promote trade, you prefer your people. Because we are talking about air links. It is when we ship crude from Guyana to Nigeria, Angola, and ship refined products back, that we can see movement of people. And we will not need to beg for airlines to fly. They will follow the money. In Barbados, AfriCaribbean financed the redevelopment of a sports facility that will also double as an arena for hosting creative events. The bank is also currently considering deals worth about $400 million across various sectors of the Barbadian economy. Honorable Prime Ministers, Your Excellencies, we must shift from the era where our commodities build economies other than ourselves. We are the only people who trade commodities, but those who trade them are others and not us. In this regard, our AfriCaribbean is proactively supporting Guyana and Suriname, two countries in the region with significant oil and gas discoveries, with financing and technical assistance programs to support the creation of local capacity, ensuring significant local participation in the oil and gas sector. In Guyana, we are supporting local content development in the oil sector with a proposed $1 billion facility. In Suriname, we are working with the government and the state oil company to also launch a multi-billion US dollar local content support program. AfriCaribbean will finance and support these programs using lessons learned across Africa and with expertise already well developed in Nigeria, Egypt, and Ghana. Your Excellencies, Honorable Prime Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, an era of declining development assistance to our economies, coupled with the exit of international banks, and the imperative to build our economies using our own resources and institutions, we must develop our own institutions that are capable of financing our development. Consequently, we are working with the CARICOM Secretariat to establish the Caribbean Exim Bank, an institution that we hope will catalyze trade and industrial development in the region, just as our AfriCaribbean Bank has done in Africa. We provided the grant financing for the feasibility study, which is currently ongoing. We are also working with our shareholders, Caribbean Development Fund, to launch a groundbreaking initiative called the Growth, Resilience, and Sustainability Fund. The fund aims to mobilize alternative financial resources and leverage public access to finance large-scale adaptation projects in the CARICOM, addressing fiscal constraints while also fostering economic growth and climate resilience. By raising $250 million through a coalition of financial institutions, this fund will empower public sector projects that support the livelihoods of citizens and strengthen communities against climate challenges. A grant financing had already been provided to the Caribbean Development Fund to support the development work for this fund. And when the studies are completed, AfriCaribbean Bank and its fund, FEDA, will support the development and implementation of the strategy that we have been created. You agree with me that efficient and low-cost intra-Caribbean and Afri-Caribbean payments are vital to accelerating trade and investment in the region. In this regard, AfriCaribbean Bank and the central banks of the CARICOM have launched the Caribbean Payment and Settlement System, modeled after the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System promoted by AfriCaribbean Bank in partnership with AFCFTA Secretariat and the African Union Commission to ensure regional trade payments in local currencies. The Caribbean Payment and Settlement System will eliminate costly currency conversions, facilitate faster transaction flows, and decolonize our payment ecosystem. As we speak, a pilot is underway involving central banks from across the region. Our objective is to bring every CARICOM country into this payment ecosystem and create seamless trade financing corridors. These corridors will link African and Caribbean SMEs to larger markets, enable e-commerce integration, and lower transaction costs. As we have seen in Africa, where utilization of the Pan-African payment and settlement system is increasing by about 1,000% period on period, we will also launch a currency trading platform here in the CARICOM, which is similar to what we've also done in Africa. We also plan to launch the Caribbean Payment and Settlement System, the CAPS card, that will enable CARICOM citizens to spend their national currencies anywhere they visit in the CARICOM. As with Africa, we can also work with the stock exchange to enable investments in multiple jurisdictions using national currencies, thereby enhancing liquidity and access to long-term financing to businesses in the region. I can assure you that the Pan-African Payment Settlement System is beginning to make massive changes on the continent. Increasingly, people are beginning to find the value. And I must thank the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, Barbados, and the Bahamas for agreeing to start the Caribbean Payment and Settlement System. We always start this initiative with the coalition of the willing. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System started with 5 countries in the West African Monetary Zone before it expanded to other parts of Africa. In the Caribbean, we already almost have half of the CARICOM states. So we see the opportunity for an accelerated growth of the system. And to support the technological advancement of our people, our President Bank is supporting the P.J. Patterson Institute for Africa-Caribbean Advocacy at the University of the West Indies to establish an Africa-Caribbean hub dedicated to the pioneering development of generative artificial intelligence. This initiative is not merely about technology, it is about harnessing the untapped potential of our regions, our rich natural resources, our brilliant minds, and our burgeoning digital networks. For too long, African and the Caribbean have been sidelined in the global narrative of technological advancements, particularly in the realm of cutting-edge artificial intelligence. As a bank, we've committed to changing this narrative, forging an ecosystem that not only stimulates economic growth, but also integrates our unique challenges and opportunities into the global technology landscape. And in the area of creatives, through the Creative Africa Nexus, CANEX, we've also made strategic investments in fashion, film, music, culinary arts, and storytelling, showcasing Caribbean talent on global stages. In that regard, we are working with Studio 327 to develop a $24 million creative training and film production program for the OECS countries. Last year, we sponsored a historic musical collaboration called One Drum, bringing together Olodu of Brazil, Stephen Marley of Jamaica, Flavor of Nigeria, Maforiza of South Africa, and other legends, reinforcing our cultural ties. We also proudly supported Caribbean designers and brands, such as The Cloth from Trinidad and Tobago, Margot Wong from Guyana, and Kenya Union, and Kevinta from Jamaica, enabling their participation in prestigious international fashion shows, including fashion weeks in Paris, Portugal, and Tokyo. Through the Cannes Book Factory, being implemented in partnership with Chimamanda Adichie, we have also championed an initiative to nurture Caribbean literary talents. The inaugural creative writing workshop, held in August 2024 in Aburi, Ghana, welcomed the emerging writers from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Kitts and Nevis, nurturing new voices in global storytelling. Furthermore, through Canex Weekend, we have also provided Caribbean chefs like Chef Natasha DeBock from Trinidad and Tobago and Chef Davisha Burrows from Barbados with opportunities to present Afro-Caribbean cuisine in some of the world's leading culinary showcases. We're also creating platforms for young professionals to exchange ideas, gain internships, and build businesses. Already, interns from Barbados, Guyana, Brazil, and Grenada have rotated through all the African Exporting Bank's offices across Africa. We encourage you to send your interns to this program. We've also expanded the program to include leading businesses in both Africa and the Caribbean, so that these young people can, with our support, intern in businesses they prefer. Your Excellencies, Honorable Prime Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while we remain very proud of what we have achieved so far, we're also mindful that much more needs to be done. What we've done so far is prove the concept. We now need to institutionalize it. That is why I think we should consider creating a commission that becomes fully responsible for delivering on the Africa-Caribbean and the broader Global Africa Initiative. Such a commission should be sovereign, but still supported by AfriCaribbean, especially in the early stages. It must also be supported by the CARICOM and the African Union. This move will give more focus and impetus to the initiative, reduce the administrative burden on Afri-Caribbean, and create an environment for innovation so that that commission can conceive and think widely beyond even what Afri-Caribbean can contemplate. The commission should advance the socio-cultural, creative, economic, and trade agenda of the initiative. It is such a commission that can more directly promote collaboration in education, science and technology, trade information, sports, other aspects of creative industry, and so on. Earlier this year, AfroSport, supported by Afri-Caribbean, organized the first ever Unity Cup tournament in London. The game involved Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Ghana, and Nigeria. It was highly successful, an indication of the hunger for such events. There is no reason why an expanded Unity Cup involving many more countries cannot be organized. Today, people of African descent in both the continent and the diaspora, especially here in the Caribbean, dominate many aspects of field and track events globally. Is it not high time we thought of a Global Africa Athletics Championship or something of that sort? Why is it that in every endeavor, everywhere we turn, we are trapped? In the sports, we produce the talent, those who sweat in the field, but those who smile in air-conditioned offices with their huge bank accounts are not us. In addition, going forward, I think we must commit and take urgent steps to establish direct air and maritime links between Africa and the Caribbean. It is inconceivable that goods and people must travel through third countries, as Wankele mentioned, and then being asked very, very embarrassing questions to reach our respective shores. We must change this. But changing this, as I said earlier, has to be deliberate and strategic. Africans must prefer global Africa in what decisions they make about businesses. Whether the business is in the Caribbean or on the continent, you prefer your own people first. That's what everybody does. In everybody's mind, we are the last. America first means Africa last. Europe first means Africa last. China first means Africa last. We are the only one who put others first, and we remain last. I think we have to change it. Because when we do, and businesses start moving, trade starts moving, maritime links will start, and air links will start. But we can play a pioneering role, find ways that the states can work with Afri-Caribbean Bank to support those who can take the risk to start these lines, especially the air bridge. As I close, allow me to remind us that the Atlantic Ocean once carried our ancestors in chains. As we look ahead, we must now transform it from a grave of memory into a gateway of prosperity. Thank you, and may God bless the Caribbean, Africa, and the global Africa family we are forging together.
We must commit collectively and individually to continuously closing the gap between our two regions, not just geographically, not just diplomatically, not just in spirit. We must do so commercially, practically, with systems and with institutions. I'm sure 4 years ago, many doubted whether we would have an active. I'm sure 4 years ago, many doubted whether the Afri-Caribbean Bank would have been financing over $3.5 billion to Caribbean businesses. I'm sure many doubted whether the Afri-Caribbean Bank would be building its Caribbean headquarters in Bridgetown, Barbados. But in the span of under 4 years, it is all happening. And so too, the shipping lines between Africa, the Caribbean, Central and South America, and the airlines can, and if I have anything to do with it, must and will happen. So too, harmonize trade standards that allow our goods and services to move freely. It looks like digital marketplaces that enable our artisans, or creatives, or small and medium enterprises to sell, scale, and succeed. It looks like youth exchange programs, already started by Afri-Caribbean Bank, already started by Dangote Industries, that allows young men and women from the Caribbean the opportunity to go to Egypt or Nigeria to share, to learn, and to experience, and to change their mindsets about how Africa businesses are viewed. It looks like co-investing in agriculture, manufacturing, fintech, and clean energy, where we are not competitors, but co-creators. We must not forget that Africa and the Caribbean face many of the same existential challenges. Climate change. Brothers and sisters, on the 1st of July last year, 2 days before we were supposed to host the CARICOM conference in Grenada, a Category 4 hurricane called Beryl ravaged the Caribbean. It destroyed almost everything in our sister islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. It did considerable damage to the coast, and in particular the fishing industry in Barbados. And with raging appetite, headed to Jamaica and continued its destruction there, particularly in the agriculture sector, all in a matter of 48 hours. But you know what? With the support of our partners, with the support of our colleagues in CARICOM, with the support of the Afri-Caribbean Bank, whose regional representative flew down to Grenada and flew with me to Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and who, through the guidance of President Orama, provided direct financial assistance in the form of a grant to the government and people of Grenada, we were able to still host our CARICOM Heads of Conference meeting in July, right here in this very room. And so 1 year later, we are here hosting ACTIV. It could have been easy to say, we're a small island. We don't have the capacity or the capability. But, and as you heard from the former Vice President of Nigeria, size is not the determinant of your destiny. Size is not the determinant of your importance. And if we take our body parts as any indication, the smallest parts of our body, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our nose, are perhaps the most crucial and pivotal for the functioning of our large organs. And so, yes, the small size of the Caribbean does not in any way take away from its pivotal and strategic importance to global trade. It was pivotal when our ancestors were brought across the Atlantic in slave trading vessels. And it is even more pivotal now to the growth and development of global Africa. And so we possess common strength in our people, in our culture that was so vividly on display, and in our enduring spirit. If we can unite on trade, we can unite on advocacy. If we can unite on common trade standards, we can share strategies. If we can move capital and finance, we can move mindsets. So as we look to deepen our economic ties, we must also embrace the reality that the future of trade, entrepreneurship, and development will largely be driven by digital technologies. And so in my capacity as CARICOM lead head for science and technology and ICT, I cannot understate the urgency and the importance of technology in reshaping all our lives within global Africa. It is redefining how we trade, how we govern, and how we must build prosperity. Africa and the Caribbean are both blessed with a young, talented, and entrepreneurial population. Africa's advancement in mobile technology, fintech, and ICT infrastructure, when paired with the Caribbean's digital creativity, tourism, and innovation, presents a real and immediate opportunity for collaboration and sustained growth. So in Grenada, we are moving with two flagship initiatives that will speak to the heart of this digital transformation. I proposed yesterday to President Orama the Caribbean Institute for Digital and Creative Industries, which we propose will be a world-class innovation, training, research institution dedicated to empowering our region's creatives, technologists, and entrepreneurs. We do not see this as a project, but as a platform to develop talent, preserve culture, and assert our digital and cultural sovereignty. With the bank's partnership, with the partnership of our businessmen and women, our creatives, we can make a regional lighthouse for global digital excellence. Second, we often forget the foundational importance of financial literacy. Throughout Africa and throughout the Caribbean, financial literacy ranks amongst the lowest. It is therefore essential that as we host initiatives like ACTIV, that we take the time and we put the resources to ensure that we educate or young men and women in financial literacy. And so in Grenada, we aim, and we have already started, to equip, at least over the next 2 years, all our young men and women with the tools necessary to make sure that they understand financial literacy, that they possess the financial skills for the digital age. From budgeting and credit to digital banking and entrepreneurship, we will roll out a program that we believe can be a blueprint for global Africa in ensuring that the next generation of global African citizens are well equipped to function, succeed in a digital financial world. We intend to deliver this through a mobile-first platform accessible to all global Africans. So we invite the bank, its partners, the business leaders, the entrepreneurs, our central banks, our development banks, to recognize the critical role that financial literacy can and should play in ensuring that we build business leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, to ensure we function successfully in a digital economy that is inclusive, resilient, and Afro-Caribbean designed for our people. In this journey, the bank has not just been a financier. It has been and will continue to be a partner in delivering progress, a catalyst for systems change, a vehicle for South-South solidarity. So we welcome and support the bank's continued efforts to expand trade credit, seed innovation, and champion economic sovereignty for global Africa. But we must all do our part. And therefore, we welcome and will support the creation of a Global Africa Commission, resourced and institutionalized, to support the many initiatives that global Africans require. And the example of the Global Africa Track and Field event is one such example that I'm sure all CARICOM countries will be vying to host. I've already put up Grenada's hand to do so. But since we expect it to be successful and not a one-off, we look forward to all our CARICOM brothers and sisters hosting our African brothers and sisters in such a championship. We look forward to our CARICOM citizens visiting many of the African states to take part and to support and to cheer on such an initiative. And I stop here to indicate that it is revolutionary ideas like these that will excite our young people. When we leave this forum, we must be able to explain to that young man what is the outcome of all this fuss and sirens and blocking of the roads. He must know that him or his friend or his cousin is going to one day have the opportunity to take part in the Global Africa Track and Field event, whether in Kigali or Bridgetown, or NASA, or Abuja. Because for far too long, many of our entertainers and creatives have become famous but poor. Well-known but economically weak. And so we owe it to our young men and women to ensure that we let them know that there is a warfare going on out there. It is economic warfare. There are fancy economic terms for calling it: protectionism, tariffs, increased cost of visas, etc., etc. It is about me first, and as Professor Orama said, someone else last. So no one is going to save global Africa but global Africa itself. And so to that young man, I conclude by saying, and I speak on behalf of all of the leaders of CARICOM, that our political will to support global Africa is unwavering. That we recognize that we are in a seminal moment, but that we are not starting from scratch. We are starting from strength. The history we share together is not a weight, it is a wind behind our sails. So we are not going to leave this forum with just another communique. We will leave with a compact, a commitment to act, to implement, and to transform. We will prove that when Africa and its diaspora trade together, do business together, we will succeed together, and we will rise together. I welcome you to St. George's, Grenada. I welcome you to global Africa. Thank you very much.